All right, we are live and unmuted.
Please catch your breath. Okay. You have enough water? Yes, David's up. All right. We can call to order at 6:30 for the Parks and Rec regular board meeting. We can do a roll call. I'm Adriana Arrington Kalk. I'm the chairperson. You want to?
Allie Welch, secretary.
Kyle McVeigh.
Steve Johnson.
Nicole Schreiner.
Citizen comments for anybody? Yeah, I was gonna make sure that Mr. Price gets the presentation or whatever you have prepared. Okay. So yeah, that'll be this. There's two parts to it, right, for today, but we just split it up to make it clear on the agenda, but we can put it all together and make a good discussion, hopefully. All right, number 4, approval of the minutes for January 21st. Is there a motion?
I move that we accept the minutes for January the 21st, 26th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And none opposed? Let's see. So, like I said, we can do 5A and 6C together. Cody Price is here from, is it Medina Valley Soccer Association or Club? Okay. Because I've seen it both ways, maybe. We did get, I think you had sent a financial statement or something that we reviewed last month. I guess this evening I wanted to go over whatever other ideas and needs that the soccer group has, so we can get those prioritized and figure out how to solve some of that. But I know the Friends group, they had a letter last month that they delivered discussing what some improvements to help soccer and the rest of the park functions work, especially during the season and especially on Saturdays. And so if there's ways we can figure out, we don't have to figure out all the problem solving this evening, but maybe we can get some action items, so to speak, about what we can work on and research so we can partner better, the city can partner better with the soccer group and vice versa.
So I don't know if you would mind going up to the podium and then kind of just giving the board a brief overlay of kind of what the organization is, more or less how many participants you have, where are they coming from, just kind of high level information for them. And then I guess if the board has any questions, if it's okay with Adriana, they can relay those questions as well. And then I guess Patrick as well might have some questions.
Yeah, we have approximately 750 kids between the whole program. I would say about 90 to 92% of the kids are from Medina County. Most of them are actually in Medina Valley ISD. We do have some kids coming from Hondo to come play with us as well. Our program, we kind of revamped it 12 months ago when I took over as the president, where we're having a feeder program from our recreational youth program that's developing into select soccer programs. So we'll be able to compete at the higher levels. So it's more than just a recreational program now. It's developing players to play at the next levels. And we already see the benefits of that with our kids are highly focused. I mean, we have a girls team that's ranked 6th in the state of Texas. We've had 3 consecutive state finals. We've won many Copas in San Antonio, a lot of championships in Austin, Lone Star Cup. And now those players are just now hitting the high school level. Now we see it when we have half the varsity soccer team are our players now. And now they're 15-0. You start to see that benefit. You start to see the chemistry working together. You see the athletes dialed in. I would say almost all the kids on the girls program are straight A students. The benefits of youth sports is tremendous. Communication skills, really just dialing in it really brings the community together when you have youth sports in the area. One of the things I'd like to do is work with the other programs so we don't have overlapping programs. So I want the kids to be able to play every sport. So they can play baseball, they can play football, they can play soccer, and they can have year-round athletics going on. Now, we also have to be mindful that we're not going to burn the kids out by playing too many sports. They also need to have breaks as well. So that's the high level of the program.
Did you?
I don't. Do you have the minutes in?
Yes.
I was trying to remember.
What age to what age?
3-year-olds to 18.
What days of the week?
Typically Monday through Saturday. We try to stay off Sundays as much as possible, but there are some overlap that does happen on Sundays.
And that's using the park all that time.
Typically for park play, it's usually Monday. Monday through Friday is the practices during the week. It's not very heavy during the club play, but when recreational season kicks in, because you're talking about club play, you maybe have 125 kids versus now you have an influx of another 650 kids coming in.
To the park.
Yeah, for the recreational play. And when that happens, it's Monday night. They're usually there from, I would say, 5:30 to dusk. And then we only have one lighted field, and that's typically occupied by the older high school players down at the end.
So just real quick to reference back, there's really two organizations within Medina Valley Soccer Club
Yeah,
or Soccer Association.
we put it into one overarching where the club is the development program.
Mhm.
The rec
So-
is the development program for the club.
So there's a rec program and then there's a club program within this umbrella. So that's kind of where he's throwing out. Rec might have 600, 700 kids, and then the club program might have 100 plus or minus.
Correct.
And is the 750 kids, is that like for the fall season and then we have that many more for the spring season?
Typically, you
Or-
have less in the spring season. Fall season is usually the heavy season.
Mhm.
Spring, you get the dilution with baseball,
Mhm.
just natural overlap.
I had just written down 1,500 total from information last week.
Yeah, that's
pretty-
combined all
That's
kids,
year.
all programs.
Gotcha.
Yes.
There's also duplicative counting in that because it may be the same 750 kids
Mhm.
from this
Right.
spring to fall to spring, so it's not 1,500
Gotcha.
kids.
Since your program is expanding so because you're trying to do more and include more children, are y'all considering, or have you considered, or will you consider getting your own field rather than imposing on the park?
That we've had discussions about it. We're just not in a financial position to do it at the moment. But yes,
With that many more children, you would think you would have an extra boost in money, and because that does put a strain on our park, and you're making it an athletic park rather than a park for everybody else to use, especially on the weekends. And don't you think your group needs to really consider that this is a regional park and not just a soccer park?
I would also throw out there we do bring in roughly $28,000 that we're bringing into the park in revenue. We're also bringing in 4,000 plus people every weekend that are purchasing, paying sales tax, buying, bringing in revenue to the local businesses as well. Because I see them bringing it as well. So to answer your question there, would I like to be able to move part of the program out? Yes. All of it is not really feasible, and it wouldn't be fair to the community. The soccer program has actually been in the park since 1998.
I know, but it's increased so much that now it's just taking more of the park. And our park isn't increasing. We have a limited amount of land. And we have more people coming into the community now that want to use the park, but it's not accessible because your group is taking it.
This
I mean, especially
is the
on the
first time I'm
weekend.
hearing about accessibility to other areas. because whenever we've had somebody asking us to move, we've always accommodated and moved and gave up benches, whatever we needed to do.
Well, I would defer to Jonah for actually how much space is being taken. I know you've presented this to us before.
Yeah. So the first instance that I heard, so I know kind of going back, there have been issues where there were programs overlapping. We've kind of gone away with that. Scheduling hasn't really been an issue lately that I remember or I can recall. I think what you're kind of referring to, Kyle, is at the Friends meeting, one of the board members had discussed that they had invited some bird watchers to come out, and unfortunately they were kind of turned away because of the amount of people that were there. Unfortunately, it was kind of just like maybe that one instance that it occurred. I haven't really gotten any other complaints about the accessibility portion of it. I haven't gotten any feedback from individuals that say, hey, we can't come to the park because of X, Y, and Z. I get feedback for everything else, but that was the first time that I had heard about it. And that's kind of what prompted this kind of conversation to go on, so that way we can understand, what do we need to do? What can Medina Valley do? What can we do together to kind of make sure that we do keep that park or portions of the park accessible to other individuals that are going to be coming and visiting, whether it's on a Saturday, whether it's on a Monday, whatever. So whenever the Friends had brought that up, it was kind of just, it was an interesting subject, but then it was also like, okay, well, let's really dig into it and let's see, do we want to put caps? Can we put caps? Is that something that soccer wants to look at doing? What are other options that we can look at to make sure that we continue to have that park accessible, primarily on those Saturdays, if somebody was to come out on a Saturday between 7 and 2 o'clock, you know?
Yeah, because I would say 90 to 95% of the games are done before 1 o'clock now.
Mhm.
So 8 to 1 on Saturday morning, it's packed. It really is. But that we're talking 10 weeks in the spring, 10 weeks in the fall.
Well, I know in particular, the Saturday that we would like is the Friends group was the Boo Bash. And yes, y'all were supposed to be out by 1, and you're not. And it just was really a conflict.
Again, and that kind of comes down to a scheduling deal, and that we as the Parks Department and soccer, we work together. They've reassured us, yeah, we'll be done by 12. By the time they're done by 12, but by the time everybody's loaded up and left, it's 1 o'clock. So it's kind of one of those things where we try to get better every year. And I wasn't here this past year for Boo Bash. I don't know, maybe Helen or Patrick can, I know Helen wasn't, but maybe there's some feedback that we can get from Boo Bash on how it went.
On
But-
these surveys that we've had, that we've sent out by the park, like what do you want, what do you see, have you ever asked about accessibility? Has that ever been on one of them?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
But it kind of comes down to, accessibility is a very broad term, you know, so
How do we narrow it?
that's the thing, is that we need to make sure that we narrow it, and what accessibility are we talking about? Because if we're talking about accessibility for wheelchair bound individuals, you know, it's kind of hard, right?
Right.
So, or are we looking for accessibility of visitors coming to the park? You know, okay, if we're looking for accessibility for visitors at the park, we can word that definitely, but we want to make sure we're all on the same page in terms of
Right.
what we're looking for and what we're trying to get.
Lions Park. How do you association?
We don't have an association with Lions Park. We've tried to utilize those fields and haven't been able to gain access to it.
There's a different organization that uses Lions Park, Castroville United Football Club.
I think the other issue that's come up over time is just the lack of being able to let the fields rest. And I know that's important to you guys too, because your kids are playing in pretty much dust right now, which we can't, I mean, we're limited what we can do in the drought also, but how do we give it rest?
Rest shouldn't be that big of an issue. For soccer, realistically, because we don't wear toe cleats like football, so we're not digging in and ripping up the fields the same way. Rest on most typical soccer fields, because I ran Bernie's soccer program previously. We had a big park there. We had 1,500 kids. Field rest, rotation, typically 1 day, if you have water. The issue that we're having right now,
Yeah.
I don't think that field's been watered maybe twice in 3 years since I've seen it. So that's the bigger issue that we're running into, and that's the biggest complaint when we put out our parental surveys. We send them out to all 700 plus parents. We got about 150 back. The lowest section we get is fields, and it's simply because they're dirt. We have to get water on the fields, and if that means utilizing some of the fees that we're paying to the city, can we use those to pay the water bill? Can we get access to the gray water? Can we do something to get water on those fields? Because when I see the uses of the fields in front of the high school too, that I know are being used daily by the football program, daily by their soccer programs, and it's only resting on Sundays, and it's perfectly green because it's getting water. It's getting aeration. So typically there's no soccer in July and August, and there's no soccer in really, we shut our program down in December, and we didn't start back up until February. Yep. But during I would say outside of that, you got that 10-week period that's going to really start in April 18th is when we really kick off the recreation program. And then for about 10 weeks there, you'll have about 750 kids in the park. That's the big. Outside of that, you may have 100 kids, but they're down on the lower fields in the light.
So it kind of comes down to there's got to be a better way for us to have nice fields, and also make sure that it's soccer doesn't overwhelm the park especially on Saturdays. But that seems like the two issues. You need better fields to play on, because I have been there and I've seen the dust, and my kids have played in it too, and it is frustrating. But we can get there. I think we just need to figure out the best way to implement that.
Absolutely.
And then would somehow changing the season to move it so that maybe part of the fields can be repaired, or to shift something around. There's just some way we can come up with at least to get the field back to where it's more playable. Because right now, if I went and looked at it the other day, it's just dirt. We've got to rest the main field where the lights are, unfortunately. So we've got to figure out a way to give that one time to rebuild. And the growing season, is a particular window before it's really hot.
Could you even water enough right now in a stage 4 drought to
Well,
actually bring growth?
And that's the thing, is that there's a lot of things that some people don't know with the effluent water, right? Because those fields are irrigated with effluent. I mean, there's ways that we can try to water every day, but there's, like I said, we have to make sure that the plant is meeting their threshold, that the water in the pond that flows into the wet well is at the proper level, and then making sure that the PSI that's pushing the water out of that pump is at the correct level. So there's a lot of moving factors that we have to do. We did water yesterday, and we plan to water again tomorrow, but it's just kind of one of those things where we can definitely play with the system and mess with it and tinker with it. But field rest is going to be one thing, and Cody said too, they're generally not on the fields on Sundays, so they do have one day of field rest.
It just
But
seems like
it's
you're
just
going to
kinda-
need more for the short term to get it back to playable, to where it actually is
And
green everywhere.
quite frankly, the condition of the fields, yes, they are not the best, but I think we've seen them worse. So I think if we can kind of go forward from here and get as much water as we can on the field before your rec season kicks off, which is April.
Yeah, April
I think
18th.
April is when their rec season. So they're going to have 6 times the amount of people on that field than they do now. So if we can try to, between now and that time, get as much water as we can on the fields and let them rest here or there, I think we have a pretty good chance of getting that condition back up to where it needs to be before rec season starts.
And we do plan on rearranging some of the fields, so the movement is changing. We can do that with our painting robot and just change field directions. It's just trying to make the layout work for the space we're allotted.
Yeah, and we saw a lot of that last season with them. I noticed that one fields were here one day and they were here the next day because they were really good about moving their fields around.
Yeah, because what we really typically see in soccer is you really only have two bald spots right in front of the goal and the top of the box, where all the kids just congregate, and the goalie just sits there and kicks the dust. So as long as we can continue to rotate the field, that's the other thing. It's, if we're moving the fields around and we only have sprinklers set up in one area, it doesn't really help the rest of the fields.
You're still in a job.
And I have a
Yeah.
question about participants.
Yes.
So, if I heard correctly, everyone's in between the age of 3 and 18,
Yes, ma'am.
and there's 650-ish during the rec season, and then 120-ish during the club season. When I was leaving the park this afternoon, it seemed like there was an additional category, or there was a sign that said that there was, and I'm not sure if it's for the Medina Valley Soccer Association or whether it was for a different group, but it very clearly said adults and children, and registration for soccer. Are you adding an adult program?
No, we used to have an adult program prior
Okay.
to me coming on board. That it was more of a pickup league where if adults wanted to come play, they can play. That was on Sunday afternoons, and that really hasn't
There's just
materialized.
an old sign.
Yeah,
Okay.
hasn't materialized in the last
Okay.
few years.
Okay.
For most of it, yes, because we purchased lights so we can move to play in different areas. So we're not just playing on the lighted field. So we're doing everything we can within our budget. Now, keep in mind, our budget is literally, we charge about half of what the other clubs in San Antonio and about a third of the other club in the city charges, because we try to keep it affordable for everybody in the community to actually play.
Out of curiosity, you said you worked with the Verde soccer group.
Yes, ma'am.
Was that, did y'all have your own field or did you use a park?
It was a city park,
It was a city park.
Yes,
And you had, what, 1,500?
1,500. Yes, ma'am.
And it was the one that was right next to the pool.
Yes, ma'am.
And how often did they play?
They played 10 months out of the season, or 10 months out of the year. They had 2 seasons as well. And they had a much bigger club presence, so they had about, I would say, 300 kids almost year round there playing.
Did they, was that the main park or was that an auxiliary park?
That's the main park.
The main park.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it as large as the Castroville Park?
It's set up differently. It's
hard to
a
say.
very different setup.
It's just a different layout.
Very different parking situation. Like,
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
what was the question?
It's probably bigger than ours.
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of parks departments that are bigger than ours. I think Hondo is bigger than ours.
Yeah.
Um,
We got 11.
I think I would like to give kudos to Cody and his team, because here lately the line of communication between both city staff and Medina Valley has been pretty open and receptive on both ends. They need something from us, we're right there, and vice versa. So I think it kind of goes to show that Medina Valley Soccer is willing to help and meet in the middle, just as long as we're able to kind of figure out what are the needs from both the city side, visitor side, and the organization side, and then try to work cohesively to figure out where we can do. Obviously, fields are going to be is number one, and then once we get that, maybe we can institute some type of cap or something to where we keep the fields at the condition that we want them to be at, because we obviously don't want them to deteriorate. And if something is to happen and we're not able to water them like we normally can, what toll is that gonna take on the park anyway? So I think we need to work together and try to figure out a solution. And I think we have some options here. We just, the board needs to decide. I wouldn't recommend tonight, but kind of figure out what we would like to do.
I have one more comment that had just come up before, Mr. Price.
Yes, ma'am.
I know that something they mentioned about just the open feeling of the park when you come in on a Saturday. We know how many people are coming in, and just the necessity of parking, and the cars are kind of parked everywhere to try and get to their kids' game. That, and then all the tables are taken or whatever. Is there a way to communicate to the soccer people, like, this is where we park, this is how we park, or do you already do things like that?
We left that open last season.
Uh-huh.
We could definitely send communication out. Don't use the benches unless you paid for the benches. Like we do as board members, we do see people sitting there, kids sitting there. Like just make sure y'all go talk. You rent the space as you're supposed to. Parking, we did change it last season, where we moved the little kids back up to the top, which was a lot easier because it gets the grandparents out faster. The ground's a little bit easier to walk, and it seemed to be a lot smoother, and it made our games run faster and get the kids out faster. So I think that's helpful to keep the parking at the top for the majority of the little kids. The bigger kids, the high school players, they play down at the bottom. Most of them are driving too, so we have them park and walk a little bit farther. Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
And I think since you're doing the notes, something that anecdotally would be helpful is, especially as people are parking in between like 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. is having someone from the soccer association kind of controlling where people are parking, especially as that hill starts. Just because families have been blocked in who have been in other programs, and so
Right.
Right by the pool.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a nice volunteer role to trade off. Just tell them.
Oh, yes.
One of the biggest concerns I have heard over the years, about 40 years, is parking and speed. Those two issues. And I still, I don't know if I was up here when I hear the people still, they can tell me, they've gone down to the kids. Heard that. Oh, probably 10 times this year. From parents and kids. Parking is an issue. The grass is an issue. It appears to many people that soccer has grown to the point, I love soccer. Kids all play soccer. Grandkids play. But they kind of monopolize the park space. So I think parking and a ski. I know you know that too.
Yeah.
Those situations that I propose can be addressed.
And when we're there, we can definitely start to address it as well. When we see it happen as board members, we go and address it. Now, there are people that are in the park that are occupying the space. Well, we're there too, that have nothing to do with soccer. Like, I've had to call the police for a drunk guy picking a fight with parents watching a game that has nothing to do with anybody there. Had to call the cops for a junkie in the bathroom. It is what it is. So we'll control what we can control. Parking, that's going to be difficult because it's just adults that just don't listen.
Unfortunately, and to Helen's point, I mean I do hear comments about parking and issues with accessing stuff. I've done enough events, especially in the park, specifically with parking, to know that you're not going to be able to get front row parking for something that you want. So it's going to be a hit or miss on if somebody wants to come and go to that specific playground and get front row parking. It's almost not going to happen unless you come either before soccer or after soccer. And that's kind of, unfortunately, just kind of the way the cookie crumbles. But there's, I think, ways that we can work on that. I mean, we might be able to put up some signs that say, I think I see Walmart's or Kohl's or something that say like mother and child parking or something like that, where we can put up some type of signage, or we can put some signs up, or kind of mark out some areas that say large pavilion parking and it's for 4 cars, or small pavilion parking for 4 cars. I mean, there's areas that we can that we can try to improve on. But if we don't hear from that or we don't know that kind of stuff, then I mean, it's going to kind of.
But Jonah, you see it. It's not a question of
The-
whether people are complaining. You see it.
But the thing is just because I see it, I mean, yeah, I see a lot of stuff, but I don't mind parking by the tennis courts and walking. You know, some people don't mind the walk. Some people do mind the walk. And that's kind of where some people, I'm sorry, but some people have this mentality of like, well, no, I want to go to that playground and I want to park right in front of that playground. You know, and it's like, I'm sorry, you can't.
Well, that's where
you
you
know.
need to have people at that time.
Understood.
If you have an adult there, because they're not going to observe the signs.
Understood. And I understand that. I mean, like I said, I've worked plenty of events, specifically Easter, where there are citizens that come to the gate and say, why are you charging? Well, this is why. Well, I'm a resident. I should be able to go in for free. And I'm like, I'm sorry, this weekend you can't. And I will get plenty of comments, you know, and it's kind of like, hey, I'm sorry, I will be the bearer of bad news for you, but it's just the way it is, you know. And like I said, I don't mind walking, and I kind of prefer to walk, but some people just don't. And I understand there might be mobility issues. They might have 3 kids, you know, and it's kind of just one of those things where we have to figure out an alternative or ways that we can try to help everybody. But again, we're not going to be able to please everybody. So as long as we try to do what we can, that's all that I feel like we can do.
I think it needs to be a part of reasonability too.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to come down to a park on a Saturday and it's soccer, you can't reasonably expect to go park right in front of the playground. What do other parks do? You know, we're not the only park around. What do other people do?
And I will say, I mean, this is completely separate, but this is why we're going to try to push for Lions Park to get a playground, so that way if soccer is
Right.
running at regional, there's another playground across the highway that they could go to and have access to. But again, that's kind of just other things that, if they're all to fall into place, will happen, right? But yeah, I agree with Allie.
Because it is worth noting that certainly we don't have like a park that's accessible to every district. You know, like there are some people that regional park, like that's it, that's what they have access to. And accessibility to that, I think, is fundamental.
I agree, but I don't think a front parking space is.
Yeah, no, but I don't know that I've heard anyone say, I am entitled to this front parking space. Now, I know that's anecdotal. No one files complaints with me. Maybe people have done and said that. I don't know. But I think that the possibility of, and part of it is an honor system of, you know, designating some signs in some areas and saying like, okay, you know, on Saturdays or whichever days in between these days and these times, this is for a nice way of saying walkabout playground, not affiliated with a program, parking spot, right? To have a couple of those. I don't know how you would word it,
Yeah.
but you know,
Wording-
but the intentionality is creating, like, carving out a space so that, you know, and hopefully people are honest about it. But yeah.
We'd have to cap it at that point and move and look for alternative locations, because the fields themselves wouldn't be supported. Realistically, we're getting close to it. I would say about 800 total. That's kind of where my head's at, based upon the current situation of Mark not having water. Like, if the fields could support it and we had staffing to do it, and there's so many different issues that it's not just the water, it's the staffing, it's the space, it's the parking. Like, just because we have the fields doesn't mean it's going to be efficiently run without the right staffing or parking. So, yeah, that's. That's a difficult question. And the reason I say that because anybody can park there, and they may not be affiliated with us at all, and they just walk them out, and then we're getting hit with dinged with it. Oh, that's a soccer. I don't know who that is. We would have to get more community volunteers because we're still a volunteer program. Like, as a board member, we're not getting paid to run a program. We're doing this because we love the sport. We know the benefit of it. I mean,
And it seems like there could be a certain, if someone has rented the pavilion, right, then they probably have a receipt document that they receive online. You can print it out. Maybe there's like a little QR code. You cut it off, you tape it to the inside of your windshield. And if you roll up to your pavilion and there's a car that doesn't have that, then perhaps it gets towed away. But something that doesn't require quite as much people power as trying to say, like, this car looks too familiar.
and I wouldn't be able to police it and be like, I'm not going to come tow your vehicle. I'd have to call I'd have to call the police department and have them come do it.
If you have that many parents, I mean, if you're having that many children on the field, you have usually two parents and usually two grandparents and maybe anybody else. You've got a lot of volunteers if you would just access them. Because I think that some of these people would be willing to help.
I'm sorry, Kyle.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
Nobody
the tables have turned. When even maybe Coach Nicole can speak on behalf of swimming, but when I was a coach swimming, which was 5-6 years ago, it's like pulling teeth getting volunteers. Unfortunately, people just don't want to do it. Yeah,
There's
people
been
just
a
don't want to do it.
Significant decline in parental volunteers over the last 20 years in youth sports. So you've seen that.
They're just going to drop them off.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and
Essentially,
also,
we're having to let the kids play for free in order to get them to come coach a team.
Yeah.
If we're at that point, otherwise we're going to have to significantly increase fees and actually pay coaches.
Mm-hmm.
And then that may be a future scenario, and that may cut the numbers down.
Yeah.
I mean that's what San Antonio does on one of their fields. One of their fields they don't. But it'd be a significant blow to the community if the soccer season jumps from $125 to $250 now. And then we'd probably get a ton of backlash.
Everybody's gonna get backlash, no matter.
And I don't really see a volunteer either trying to enforce a parking situation.
Like
It's going well.
Like I said, I think if we can, I think if we can mark those areas, I like Nicole's idea.
I do
of
like that idea
receipts.
because when
you
you're
know.
reserving a pavilion, you should have.
Yeah.
That is reasonable. You should have.
But then
parking
again, it's
close to
okay. How then we
you
can
paid and reserved.
then we can get into the nitty gritty on how many spots do they get? You know, how many pavilion spots do you get? How many
Yeah.
area spots do you get? So we kind of get into different scenarios of maybe it's just you get 4 no matter what, and you need to have the receipts in the window, and that's what allows you to park in this area. But-
There's also no designated parking spot.
Correct.
I know this would be a whole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so we would
Like
like
to be-
T-post it off. Make the Parks Department would have to make a little area. I would get with streets and see if they can donate some asphalt and But again, we're kind of
Any robot.
there you go.
They program it.
There you go. So. But we do ask them a approximate number. Yes. Correct. Correct. And correct. And to date, knock on wood, we have not had any complaints with people reserving pavilions. They usually come on the back half of the day anyway, and they're already pretty much out the door kind of in that situation. So we've been pretty good on that.
I do not have any more specific questions.
It sounds like we're on the right page, like everybody.
Yeah.
I know. I know there's probably, we probably will need to have a cap, I think, at some point, right? There's just, there's different ways to do that. I think you could enforce the registration address to be a certain area. You could actually just put the number on it because there's just only so much space. And then of course we've got to reset the grass.
And I think, quite frankly, I think we're getting to that point of, 800's we're kind of busting at the seams at 800. So is 750 a more reasonable number, or even bring it back to 700?
Yeah.
So, but then again, we also we're going to have to figure that out, and we'll have to make an amendment or an amendment to their contract and make sure that that's put in there. And then do we outline it to where it's 750 total? Right? Or is it like what is because what happens if they have 200 club people and the club they're only going to come here and there, they're not on the fields as much, whereas rec it's just like a huge amount of kids all at one time. So how do we
And maybe
navigate that?
y'all can brainstorm that too.
Yeah.
You have your numbers, you can see the trends.
Let me chew on that.
Yeah. And I think at some point the rates will have to go up, as they're able to get the handle on the irrigation or whatever other solutions we can come up with, because it sounds like you're going to have to upgrade irrigation substantially, depending on if you're using fresh or effluent.
Correct.
It's not, the solution you have isn't long-term ideal.
Yeah. Yeah. The $20 per user is a number from 2023. So, we probably do need to revisit that, but also understand too that I don't want to, it's obviously going to be up to council and the board, but I don't really feel comfortable upping that number until we get those fields back into the condition that we find fair and
Well, and you might need training or
correct.
all that kind of stuff. Like it's going to come in phases. I peeked at other soccer groups, and I think from what it was maybe a 30-minute research project to find out fees and stuff. Like it's cheap here, so at some point it will need to go up, I'm sure, to cover stuff. And I guess as a bonus project for anybody, if you find 10 acres of land someone's willing to donate or give at a discounted rate. I had talked to Scott Dixon a few weeks ago, and I'm like, what's happening? Like it's in the master plan to find land to help with this sort of to help with the sports in particular, and he's just like, there's not much right now, but they've been looking at. So
Sports complex.
yeah. Well, that, but you're at least to support soccer. It sounds like you need like 10 acres, right? Would be nice. It looked like a couple of the other places had that, but then a whole complex that's like 50 or something. So
I think the main area,
if someone knows someone, or who is willing to donate or maybe get a tax break or something.
I think the main area down by the amphitheater and in that run is about 5 acres.
Yeah. I summed up what they had, and it was what the top and the bottom, but you could extend farther if we really needed to.
Yeah, we could,
or to rotate fields better.
Yeah, we
farther
had
up.
a little bit more spacing in it, depending on how it's laid out.
Mhm.
Then you can cross some fields here and there.
Yeah.
So 10 to 12 acres is realistically what we need for a program. It would be 10 to 12 if it was laid out correctly.
Yeah.
The problem is that the layout is you got a hill on one side, you got dips and valleys on the other. So even if we have that space, we're not occupying it because you have unplayable land.
Where there's like a big sticker bush.
I mean, I know land developers. We could come in there and develop part of it. But that's future conversations.
I would invite you to come back for sure annually or whatever, because I think out of like a lot of the different things that use the park, y'all obviously has the biggest numbers. So just keep communication open and make sure we're on the same page. And I know you do, but you're working with Jonah all the time.
I know everybody has lots of stuff to do, but I would strongly recommend someone from the soccer association join the board.
So let me know when.
We need alternates. We always need people on board.
We have two
current
alternates and regulars in the summer.
No, alternate would probably work better. I currently sit on 5 other boards. So
And I hear you. I mean, don't feel like you have to do it, but I'm just someone to have feedback from your organization would be very helpful.
I'm frontline seeing it,
Uh-huh.
so I can relay what we're seeing with the complaints that we're getting from the parents. You know, it's primarily just the fields at this point.
Yeah.
You know, I think we solved a lot of our parking issues once we moved the fields around and stretched some of the timing out. Therefore, it didn't feel like we had that log jam that used to always happen around the river. That's pretty much gone.
Yeah.
It's just dialing the rest of it in.
I think every year it gets better, but I think the focus now, at least on my side, is going to be trying to get those fields up.
So maybe y'all can figure out a cap or some way to
Yeah,
not explode.
I'm gonna take it back and talk through it. We did have that explosion when they built those communities over off 90. We jumped from 450 to 700, but now it's slowing down. But who knows with the next community? Yes. Yes. Yeah, Hondo does that. They have their city fee, and then they have an extra $10 fee for non-residents. So we can definitely.
Is there a reason that the kids from Hondo choose to play for us instead of playing there?
Better coaching.
Yeah.
It's more for the select side.
The club, okay.
I mean, we have former MLS players in our program now that are helping coach.
And I guess that makes more sense to me for the club portion of it, not for the rec.
But they see that the rec becomes the feeder to the club, and that's how it all trades in together.
Mm-hmm.
So ideally, you want a kid playing recreational soccer from 3 years old to 11 to 18. You want them transitioning to select play. But we still have available for kids that don't want to play select. They don't want to travel to Austin. They don't want to go national to play. They just want to stay local. Perfectly fine. As long as we keep them active. That's all that matters at this point.
I hate to say it, but for our volleyball league, we had to make a cut of only Medina Valley players. Like, we can only fit so many. This is for development of our students. So that was kind of what we decided this year.
Not a bad idea. I think that wouldn't really, if we counted it to like Medina Valley ISD players, would work.
Well, didn't you say that, 92% of the people
Right,
were
it may
in
not
the
impact that many kids.
92%,
Yeah.
so you're talking about 8% reduction? So,
Gotta start somewhere.
no, I don't disagree. It feels more like a first step than like an ultimate solution.
Yeah. Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate y'all.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Change gears entirely. We're on 6A. Discuss and take appropriate action on the parkland dedication ordinance updates. I had sent an email out with a few comments that I got from Brianna. She liked the overall updates that we had agreed on last time. So if you'll have any other comments that you want to add, I can just go through the list. I did not bring any notes of it. I can read it.
Do that.
Okay, the first one was the minimum acreage amount too small, the gross size. So we're talking about 5% of 5 acres would be dedicated on the low end. It's more probably a question for you. Do you want quarter-acre size parks potentially, like in infill spots, or do you want it to be larger so you're not having to take care of and mow little spaces?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely are going to want, if we have a piece of property that is donated to us and it's a quarter of an acre, I don't think we're going to turn it away. Well, we can turn it into something.
Okay. I've seen comments that it's like gets too tedious.
Yeah, I guess it really is going to just depend on What's the vision for that property? You know, are we looking to put just like a pavilion there, you know, something small with a couple, like a
So
picnic
not like
table?
irrigation maybe?
Yeah, you know, something small. So
So if you're okay with that, we can leave it. I just wanted to make sure
Mhm.
if you had thought, any other thoughts on that. The other part was, Brianna mentioned that a lot of developers don't seem to mind ever paying this fee in lieu of amount, the 5% of what. So she's like, try to increase that to where it makes the most sense, where yeah, it's actually money that we can do something with. One option is to make sure the 5%, the number you're calculating that off of, is very large, right? So you're using like what is actually developed land value worth, and then we could also probably increase the percentage.
You should have a higher value because
We can try to
opt out
max it
with
and
the
see.
money, then we lose the land.
So I've tried to word this to where we're not slipping into this section of the ordinance too much, like it only happens in a few cases. But if we do, we want to make sure we get enough money for that in exchange. So I'm going to make sure that says. No, I mean, I could play with the numbers. So technically there's a whole set of arithmetic you can do to prove your number that you're asking or demanding from developers, but I didn't want to attempt to implement that in this, so we just kind of pick a percentage. And I could probably go look at other ordinance to see from other cities, because they have different number for this instead of 5%. But the question is, could you go up to 10 or is 8 better?
I'm gonna be inclined to put it on the higher side to discourage people.
Yeah.
I mean, like if really and truly this is it, this is the only way that it's gonna work, then yeah, I would err on a higher percentage based on the value that we have and the reality that we have, that you know, you can't create new land. We have what we have, that's it.
And you're gonna opt out to get the least amount, or put the least amount down, so. And we've had that issue before where we've opted out for being more reasonable and then we lose, the city loses.
Right now, we kind of went with the parks director in the approval process. Some cities have the parks board in it instead of that. I wanted to double check with what y'all would, or future boards might want to attempt. I was trying to err on the side of being more efficient and having just staff look at it, because if we're maintaining the master plan, you know, the director would have all that information anyway.
I think the staff definitely, but I think the park board should be involved too, because a lot of times they're just, it's an afterthought. Oh, by the way, we did this, you know, that, I mean, not that our input's gonna be that great, but at least have an opportunity to see it before something is developed.
I agree.
That's very great.
Oh, I do too, I
If
think it,
possible, I
but-
definitely want the board to have a vote in the matter, because, you know, hopefully Jonah sticks around and enjoys his work for a very long time, but
I love what I do.
but I mean, staff, they come and go, but Parks Board, it's usually a pretty dedicated group of volunteers.
well, we can have a
A
vote on
singular
it, but
focus.
it ultimately it goes back to council anyway, so, but we can put our 2 cents in and say, this is what we really prefer, and that would be good.
Alright, let's do that. We'll see. So that's my last option or item. We can send this to council, and then they can, if they like it, then it would go back to the attorney to get updated into the actual language.
I actually might probably send it to the attorney first, just because sometimes council likes to say, has this been run by the attorney?
Okay.
So if the board is okay with it as it stands, or if there's any quick revisions, I'll send it to the attorney, and then also put it onto the next council's agenda. So that way, I don't know if Councilman Rose wants to bring it up as well in his updates. Okay. Perfect.
For sure. Okay. That's it. If, I guess we can make a official recommendation on this draft with the changes that we talked about. That would be easy.
Do we need a motion on that?
That's what I was thinking.
Okay.
Someone like to do the official motion.
I move to recommend the proposed, what do you call it? Parkland dedication, given the edits that we discussed tonight.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. None opposed. Thank you. All right. And then we need to discuss and take appropriate action. This is 6B on the community center policy that,
Where did that come from?
That was something Devin and I had worked on.
That is great. You
Yeah.
covered every time I think, well, what about next line? You covered it. Really, really.
Yeah, Devin. You know Devin. Right?
Oh,
He's
yeah.
very thorough. So
Well, this
he did a lot.
I know when we had looked at it before, when Helen and I had talked about it, it was dinky, dinky, dinky.
Mm-hmm.
But this covers
Everything.
There's no room for.
did you
Well,
see it?
you didn't say that we couldn't.
Did you see the community center policy? Okay. I didn't know if you had seen. Forgot.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
It was good. My 2 cents.
Do you
So
want that?
it's definitely up to the board. I know this is the first time y'all saw it. I don't know if there's any recommendations or changes that you all would like to see. There are some blanks in there still. So I'll probably send it to council with them understanding too that there's still information that needs to be revised in there, like capacity. What is our seating and standing amount? What if we're okay with those times, opening and closings? How many tables and how many chairs are going to be actually purchased for this? So there are going to be a couple of different changes in there that we'll put, but overall, if the board is okay with it and y'all want to make a recommendation to accept it as is, then I will send it also to the attorney to review and send it to council for approval.
There was one just typo. It's not telling me what page it is. It says where there's reservations must be made at least 7, and in parentheses it says 30 days.
Okay.
It's just,
Well, what page is that one? Oh, I see it.
it's just right from the top.
I'll say page 24.
That doesn't really make sense. Did y'all want to make a recommendation of that in a motion? Officially? Or no other edits to it?
I move that we accept the community center policy as written.
All in favor? Or is there a second?
You said.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
On 7A, it's the Friends of the Castrelo Regional Park update.
Ask a question, just short and sweet. Wasn't necessary to bring it up while Cody was here, but I am curious, when we're looking at the water use in the soccer field, are trees being adequately watered? So those are what,
Which trees? I mean, we have a
I
lot.
don't know, but we did have ones that were big and old and fell over dead.
Yeah.
So I know watering our trees has been a big thing, so
So we're always looking. So we find
because if you have to prioritize one or the other, I mean, that's a conversation.
we always want
discussion
to.
we have.
Yeah, we always definitely want to protect what assets we already have. So the 100 trees that Bear Branch has put in, those are on irrigation. Some of the older trees are not on irrigation, and that's where we're gonna have to try to talk it among staff, and then also probably partner with a lot of people now on the Friends board are master naturalists, and kind of get some ideas on what we need to do to make sure we protect those trees that don't have an irrigation system, which really all of them should, and some of them do. But there's ghost lines out there. There's valve boxes, like the trees on the ridge where the amphitheater is. That kind of, there's like 4 trees there. I think they're all oaks. Helen might know which ones I'm talking about, or y'all might. There's bubblers at the base of the trees. I have no idea where those valve boxes are at. I don't know if they're effluent. I don't know if they're fresh. So, but yeah. Yeah. So, moving forward, I know there's one individual, Jeremy Thomasak, who's now a part of the Friends Board. He is like head over heels with nature and everything. So he's really kind of been on us to make sure that any trees that we're putting in are native trees, just so that way they can survive in these drought, situations. So any new trees moving forward, or any trees that we do start with, they're going to be hooked up to irrigation and or are going to be specific to, drought tolerant, I guess, trees.
And is there a need to create kind of an additional buffer, especially as the fall season comes through and that riparian area hopefully is getting its footing?
Mm-hmm.
Is there kind of a plan for any sort of buffer to maybe keep less traffic in that kind of?
On the riparian side?
Yes.
So the riparian, the muley that they're going to put in is going to go along the ballards. So there's very little to no traffic kind of along those ballards that are there. There's still going to be breaks for people to access, and that's kind of what they're trying to do, is they're trying to create that access to specific tables. The demo garden is going to be, it's going to have the barriers and the signs and stuff like that. And then there's what is it called? Not a demo. There's another kind of sectioned off area that is going to be I don't know what, I was trying to think of it earlier. I'm sorry.
It's like not touched, right?
Yeah. But it'll be fenced off and signs. So, yeah. So we are creating those buffers basically by putting in those steps, those trails, and those access points for patrons to get to those areas.
Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Do you want to do a Friends update or no?
Friday, March 20th, 6 to 8, we're going to have our main annual meeting in October. We're going to have you get more information on that. That's all mine. That's your meeting.
Yeah.
We can bring it back if we need to, if he has anything else to update us.
Well, I'll do my little 7B.
Sorry. He's talking to Cody, I think, still.
That's okay. That's good too.
Are you going to get all her files that she has, or has she already turned them over to you?
I think she's giving some to Adriana and Patrick, and they're trying to digitize
And
them.
she has a wealth of.
Oh, I know.
I mean, from the beginning to the history of the park,
Oh yeah.
everything that's been done, like just like that. I know where the bubbles are. I know
Yeah.
where it's like.
Yeah, that is going to
We're just saying, Helen, that you are a wealth of information as far as the park is concerned. No, you documented it all. That's what makes it so special. You documented it.
Yes, necessary to do that.
Yes.
We all think we remember everything.
That's a fact.
He didn't have anything to add.
Did he is okay. 7B update on September Square. I was talking with Priscilla, trying to get an update from her about the different funds she was trying to find or to move around. So she's still working on that. There's potential for some funds from different nonprofits to move over and be assigned to September Square. And then Cindy Guzman, and her family, they still have not presented their September Square memorial project to council yet, and as far as she knows, they haven't secured the funding. So that hasn't really moved anywhere since when she gave the presentation. I think that was last August. The Active Transportation Committee made some great suggestions, and I think they're compiling all that. There's a meeting coming up in the next 10 days, I think, on improvements for September Square that would make it more accessible, safer to cross, safer or more parking maybe, better sidewalks, all these sorts of things. And so there's like all these things kind of swirling around September Square, and I just wanted to make sure that we keep those like things prioritized, but also kind of on the same page, like that we don't get like one project in front of the other and then you have to redo something or kind of waste money in that. Hopefully, if we can get that information from the Active Transportation recommendations and figure out some funding, maybe put it in the budget for next year, and maybe get some improvements, because I think September Square is going to be so important. Obviously it is right now, but there's just going to be that many more people coming down Fiorella trying to access the shopping and things,
I will say
and it's such a critical intersection.
on Christmas, whatever the Christmas thing is called, old fashioned Christmas. That both of those streets were a nightmare.
And they're narrow.
No,
and
one is
there's
closed.
people-
It's the other one because everybody was trying to come down. That's San Jacinto, Alamo to San Jacinto,
Think
or
so.
whatever. It was between parking and the cars trying to go both ways. It was nuts.
And Priscilla's a great proponent of trying to get more parking around there, because obviously if you try to park up Fiorella, it gets really tight. Just to try to help that.
Especially the person that parks at the bank. I mean, he's gonna get nailed someday.
Don't we actually have like a sketched out plan that Priscilla gave us that has those parking spots?
Well, in the master plan, I think it's like 71, page 71, because I've looked at it a couple of times. There's a map there, and it's really useful. And so I'd like to take that map and whatever comes out of the recommendation for that from the Active Transportation mouthful, and merge that and see what low-hanging fruit we can attack maybe in the end of this year or next year. That was that. And also like use it and see if there's anything else that you can propose that would be useful to improve that. That's it for that one. I think Jonah, you're next. Yes.
Okay. So apologies for my voice. I'm going to try to go through this pretty quickly. If you have any questions, feel free to stop me or ask me. All right. Let's go. All right. Our January 2026 Parks and Recreation Department update. Community Center construction. Construction is still underway. We're not completed yet. Overall, the project is 57% complete. We are currently seeing a delay in remobilization due to subcontractors moving equipment and staff. Substantial completion is projected for May 15th with owner move-in on May 29th. And then I'll kind of go through the presentation that I gave council. Council had a little bit of feedback on, do we really think we're going to hit that May 15th, May 29th? I have a little bit of a concern with that as well. And so does LPA. So I reached out to Frontera and they reassured us that they are looking to finish the project or substantial completion by May 15th. What we have kind of seen, yes, sir. Somewhere in there. I have too many things that I could not tell you when Memorial Day is. But I'll figure it out and let you know. A couple of small things that are kind of major that have been going on. Obviously, the lathing for the stucco has gone up. The door frames have gone in for the doors. ACS, which is our low voltage subcontractor who's going to do all the monitoring of the building. They've been in and out trying to make sure that they have their paths for their wires, figuring out where those are all going, making sure that what they ordered is enough. And then also some minor electrical and framing work is also kind of being done as well. We should hope to see spray foam insulation on Friday, start and possibly can be completed on Friday. And then also some site work next week on Monday. But again, Frontera, they're having a hard time getting their subs to come back onto the job site. So they have sent out some formal notices to them as well. Hey, come on back. We're ready to go. If you don't, unfortunately, we're going to have to find somebody else to do the job. So that's where we're at. Splash pads, no changes. We are still working on an option to backfill the sub foundation underneath the pad, and then we're still working on those repairs. The sewer line has been repaired. The plumbing, the water, the main water supply still needs to be repaired, and then a couple of components on the inside. Once all of those are complete, then we can do a pressure test, make sure everything is functioning correctly, and then finish it all up. We do project to be done before summer 2026.
I had a quick question. Did you figure out if you could put any of that presentation about the community center status and funding online somewhere?
Yes, yeah, it's online.
Oh, okay.
Yes. BMA agreement. At the January 27th council meeting, council discussed the updated contract and the expending of funds not to exceed $15,000 to install automatic gate openers, trail material, and signage. I plan to meet with BMA staff tomorrow, just so that way we can figure out what gates need to be automated, and then I can try to get some quotes so we can get that ball rolling. Texas Parks and Wildlife Department grant update. The TPWD commissioners met, meeting held on January 22nd, approved the Lions Park project unanimously. Even though the commission approved the project, City Council has not formally accepted or committed the funds for this project. So I kind of put this in there just because when we were at CIP, there's a lot of good projects out there, and I don't want to say my project needs to be at the front of the line. We're understandably, understandably there is street maintenance, there are water lines, there are sewer lines, there's other projects that need to be funded. But again, it's kind of one of those things. We were the only project that had a dollar for dollar match on the table. So I think that's something that we really need to convey to council and say, hey, we understand it's a big priced item, but this is the only project that had a dollar for dollar match. And again, I'm not saying none of the other projects are important, but I'm going to be kind of selfish in here and say this project is really important considering there's nothing on this side of town. Is it 2 or 3 districts are just on this side of town that could access this, including the school? So please reach out to council or your council members or anybody on council and just kind of let them know what your opinion is, whether it's, hey, fund this with CIP or.
The thing of it is, if you don't fund it, then you're not going to be able to get it again. I mean, we've done that in the past. Where
That's correct.
We turned down a grant, or we turned down a project, and then, well, down the line, maybe we should do this. You can't because they won't accept it. So yes, yes, they have all these other major projects, but they've always had them.
Correct.
So this is something that needs to be done for the community now.
I agree.
Has this already been announced at a meeting, or is it going to be, or it was just in this?
Yeah.
I mean, to the council.
To the council, it has not. No,
That's-
I'm waiting for a formal acknowledgement from TPWD. Then I'll put it into council's packets to say, hey, we have formally been acknowledged and funded. Do we want to accept this grant? If we do, then we need to move forward. It's a 50-50 match. If we do not, then I'm going to reach back out to Texas Parks and Wildlife and say, hey, unfortunately, council did not want to accept this grant. Now, what are the ramifications of council not accepting? Like Kyle said, there may be future projects that do not get funded because it might look down on. it might put a ding on us for future projects. Hey, yeah, they're submitting projects, but they also didn't accept this project. So
When you put it on the agenda, then we as board members should be there under citizens' comments.
well,
And some of us already did show up at a previous meeting before we even submitted this.
correct. Yeah. So, and I believe, and Councilman Mers might have a little bit more. I want to say they're going to have another CIP meeting on the 28th, 24th. I'm sorry, on the 24th. On the 24th. So, maybe that's an opportunity, or if you can send an email or a letter or something to the council members, letting them know, that you support this, just so that way they are.
When I watched the city council meeting last week when they were talking about the pool and needing the bathrooms and everything, I felt like the feeling was we have money that needs to be used to benefit the community
Also,
in
not
parks.
Yeah, and not for nothing, I think if we went up and we added up, whether we heard it from council or we heard it from citizens' comments, or we heard it from people who had expertise in the area, or we heard it from various boards, I think the number of hash marks for the times, even in the last year, that people have said, well, we need someone to help us do grant writing, right? We need grant writing, and so we engaged in that process, getting something good out of it. And so if we want to justify the expenditure of that money and that staff time to make those things happen, then like it would be the rational thing to do to run with it.
Can you remind us again the amount of that grant?
I don't have it exactly in front of me, but it's just over $450,000.
Yeah.
It's like 469 and change.
There was a lot of letters that went with the grant application. Should those be unearthed?
I can definitely, I can
I was going to
certainly-
say I can resend the ones that I know people submitted.
we have it all with our grant submission.
And the survey results.
CIP projects, discussed numerous capital improvement plan projects with council at the January 29th meeting. Focus for Parks and Recreation was funding Lions Park Playground and Swing Set. Most parks and recreation projects are grant eligible, so finding those grants would be beneficial to everyone, the department, city council, and residents. One of the biggest things that staff is trying to leverage is identifying projects that have a dollar for dollar match. No programming and events. Staffing is all the same. We're still working on some tree replacement. The Garden of Roots tree sign installation has, I believe, been completed. I'll have to get with John to make sure that there's no other signs that need to be installed. And then upcoming event prep, Easter weekend, and tour to Castroville. And then in this as well is the riparian restoration project that is kind of like a 2-day event. So I'm going to touch on that here in a little bit. But on the 7th, we had the bulk of the construction and installation of a lot of the materials. And then on the 28th is going to be a planting day. So reservation report for January. Soccer fields 1 reservation, pavilions 4, table rentals 4, RV park bookings 43. And then our work orders, parks had 138 work orders, facilities 25. And here is the presentation for council on the community center. So community center update. All right, so where did we start? Midsummer 2021, pool building was identified as a city facility in need of major repairs and or replacement. In 2022, the city was awarded a congressional appropriation of $1.7 million. February 2024, the city council approved the demolition package for the old pool building. In June of 2024, city council approved the base proposal for the construction package that was awarded to Frontera Construction. So there was a lot of back and forth on, well, when did we start paying for this? When did we really get awarded the money. So just to reiterate, in 2021, the building was identified as needing repairs and or replacement. So the grant program or company that we had, EMC Strategies, they said, hey, we might be able to work with Tony Gonzalez and see if we can get a congressional appropriation. We did receive that congressional appropriation, but until the congressional appropriation was moved to a federal agency, that wasn't until 2024-ish, plus or minus. That's whenever we started getting USDA involved. So that's kind of where there's that big gap from 2021 to 2024. We didn't really expend any funds up until 2023, 2024 because of we needed to do, testing, soil testing, asbestos testing, all that kind of good stuff before any of those other dominoes could be pushed down. So where are we now? Community center is currently 57% complete. Current jobs: installation of the door frames and doors, installation of the roofing system, lathing for stucco, site work and final grading for drainage and concrete work, and then framing revisions per structural inspection. Project timeline and completion: construction began March 2025. The construction portion of this project is 52% complete. Site work is currently 76% complete. Main building is 47% complete. Substantial completion is projected for May 15th, with owner move-in on May 29th of 2026.
Answer your question. Memorial Day is the 25th.
There we go. Thank you. Delays to the project. So the project saw a weather delay equating to 26 calendar days. The project also saw a full suspension of work for approximately 63 days due to the government shutdown, spanning from October 1st to December 2nd. In addition, there was a 21-day recovery impact due to subcontractors reassigning labor and equipment. In total, the project saw almost 4 months worth of delays.
This is going to be online as well.
It is, and I'll show where it's. So if you want to ask somebody, or if they ask you, excuse me. Budget: the city's initial portion of $464,852 was required to be used first before congressional appropriation funds could be used. The city's portion was primarily used for initial solve costs like design, geotesting, demolition, and portions of our pay applications or construction costs. Federal portion, $1.7 million. The city began receiving federal funds in May or June of 2025. The first estimate of funds received from USDA was worth $64,946 in change, and we have currently received $931,743 and have a balance of $773,596. So if I know there's actually, I'm not say if there's somebody out there that says, oh, we're not paying for this, or taxpayers are paying for the whole thing. Taxpayers are paying for a portion of it, number one. Number two, there's also an ad out there for Tony Gonzalez that says that he brought Castroville $4 million for a community center. He didn't bring Castroville $4 million. He brought Medina County $4 million, and $1.7 million is tied to Castroville. The other portion is tied to another city in Medina County. And we have been receiving funds from the federal government, and that's why there was that big delay, because the government shut down and there was no staff to issue those funds from USDA. Estimated final numbers. So the remainder for the construction contract via Frontera is $722,294. There was a change order submitted, $28,000 for general conditions, and $1,200, almost $1,300 for project insurance and bonds. Alliance for Community Standard, which is doing all of our low voltage monitoring of the building, is $92,660, and the furnishings for everything, office, kitchen appliances, main space, restrooms, is $55,602. Remaining project cost after the initial city's portion is around $165,000, plus or minus. And that's all I have for that's kind of what I gave council. Council had a couple of questions. Nothing too major that wasn't outlined in this, and then there was a couple of citizens' comments that they had as well. One being, some of them were, "What is this going to be used for?" Well, it's a community center, so for the community. So we're going to have, parties, events, both for the city and for the community, and then private events as well. It'll also be the pool office or building, so the pool will be functioning out of there. There's going to be a conference room or a conference area, so if somebody wants to rent that conference room or use that conference room, any organization is going to have access to that area. And then obviously the Parks and Recreation admin office will be in there as well. Who initiated this whole thing? Devin initiated it with the support of the Parks Board and Council. And then
There was one portion where Scott misspoke and said that there would be no outdoor bathrooms, no access to outdoor bathrooms, and that is not correct.
yes, yeah,
We do need a pool house, but there will be a bathroom.
correct. Yeah. So, and that's kind of where, that's where a lot of people, I think we could have definitely, and it might have been an oversight on my part, added showers to the 2 restrooms accessible to the pool in the meantime. But I agree, the pool needs their own shower pool restroom in addition to those 2 restrooms that are attached to this building. And that's not something that we're kind of trying to push off. That's something that we definitely need sooner rather than later. But I think you're correct that there are other restrooms that are going to be accessible for the pool and for visitors. So a couple of pictures that I have. So as you can see, this was the damaged sewer line right here for the splash pad. And then we have the repaired one right here. It doesn't look very repaired because it's all muddy, but there are 2 Fernco fittings on here to have a little bit of flex. And then right here you can still see the broken pipe and the taped up pipe for the supply line that'll eventually be plumbed in. Some of the facility work, so the addition of 2 LED lights at the library building. I think the library board had requested this. There were some issues with lighting when people were trying to get to their vehicles, so the facilities department handled that. They installed those lights over there. And then the biggest, I guess, here at City Hall, the removal and final grade for the 2 front flower beds. This is just temporary until the city or volunteers or whoever has some input on what they want to put in those 2 flower beds. That's kind of just something simple, easy to keep up with. If you have any input on what you would like to see there, then I think Priscilla's kind of heading it on. So,
I have a question though. Why were the mountain laurels taken down?
so a lot of it had to do with maintenance and then also just upkeep. They had not been upkept and pruned back properly. So, I mean, I know there were a lot of comments about people saying that, oh, they were very healthy. Yes, they were healthy. However, if you really looked at the main trunk, whenever we started removing some of them were just falling off because of the moisture and whenever they made those initial cuts back like 10, 12 years ago, I think, they didn't cut them at an angle. And so those cuts were just straight across, and that water just penetrated those mountain laurels. And you could tell whenever we would take some of those branches off that it was just dry rotting down into the center. So
Didn't the one at the regional park too just kind of fall apart? Like that, it was an older one.
Yeah.
I guess
As you're coming down the
Yeah.
stairs.
I'm not a plant person. I'll give my feedback to Priscilla too. She's my neighbor. But I love to be able to actually see the building. Something that's there but still allows you to see the building would be nice.
I agree. I mean, I think what it's going to come down to, obviously we don't have a huge staff. Facilities is 1 part-time person. So the upkeep on a lot of these flower beds, these little flower beds, really is not Parks and Rec. It's volunteers. And that's Priscilla. Helen used to do a lot of stuff at Regional Park, and
Priscilla's
I'm
like-
glad she's taking a back seat, right? Yeah, we'll see about that, right? So, excuse me. It's kind of one of those things where the parks department, we're not master naturalists, we're not master gardeners, right? So we're gonna just try to maintain and keep it looking well until somebody comes in and is able to really kind of give us that guidance like Priscilla has. We're able to kind of keep better care of what we have there. So yeah, I personally I do like seeing the front of the building. Always removal of trees is always the last resort. So don't think that we just did it. Oh, we're going to remove the trees just because we want to. It's kind of a last resort kind of situation here. Yes, ma'am.
Do you have plans for power washing?
Yes. Once we're out of drought restrictions, we do want to plan to power wash that. I agree.
Well, it may be a while.
Yeah, we'll see. Here's a couple of other pictures. So we have Larry here grabbing mulch or dumping mulch, either one. There was a elementary school had requested kind of like a show and tell, so we did that. And then here's the riparian restoration project from the 7th. So right here is the demo garden installation right here. Currently, it is filled with some dirt and mulch. And then down here, we have some wattles. This is going to help filter and prevent soil infiltration into Medina River. So that's what those wattles are for. And then down here, we have the installation of some steps to table, is it 32 and 33? Yeah. Excuse me. So these are a little bit, excuse me. These steps and this project has come a lot further than what they are here, but goodness. The demo garden, I got one here, so thank you. The demo garden and all other planting is not on freshwater irrigation. It's going to be on effluent, and what we have for that is that water trailer that we've put together. So we use that today, and we put a pump on it, so that water's really pushing out, and I think it'll really work well. So
I walked by it the other day. It looks really nice,
Mhm.
like with the steps. And so,
a couple of friendly reminders. So the pool is closing. I think tomorrow is their last day for Winter Fitness Swim and for the school, and I think also for Medina Valley Swim Club. But planning ahead for summer 2026, we're going to start opening up positions for swim coaching staff, and then also for lifeguards, and then also reevaluating the schedule for the pool and how it's flowing. And I kind of touched this like maybe 2 months ago, I believe, about trying to extend our open swim past 6 o'clock, but still allowing fitness swim to come in and reserving like 2 lanes for them to still come in. Some people might not like that. Some people might. I think it's kind of, we need to offer more without taking away what we already have. So I don't really, I know I'm going to get a lot of pushback from evening fitness probably. However, I think that there are more people now that want to swim later in the evening, like families, that don't have access to a pool, that want to go to a pool, that can't because there's a 2-hour block for evening fitness where only 5 people come, you know?
Yeah.
So trying to work that schedule and figure out how we can.
would there be windows too for morning swim? For like, you can imagine a mom with a couple of little kids and to catch it before the hot part of the game. It doesn't have to be like every game. But maybe.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely something that we can take into consideration. And I think that's where I've talked to the pool manager about trying to figure out a good schedule for everybody, or for a majority of people, where we take all of that into consideration. Because, I mean, we have fitness swim in the morning, 6 to 8. We have scheduled swims. So, like, swim team swim lessons are usually 8 to 12. And then we have open swim 12 to 6. And then historically, fitness swim 6 to 8 in the evenings, Monday through Thursday, or Tuesday through Thursday. So just trying to look at that schedule and match maybe what other cities are doing,
That's what I would say.
or kind of just offering a little bit more time for open swim. Because if I'm in San Antonio and I get out at 4:30, I'm not going to get over here to Castroville till
Or
5.
at minimum, can we not have at least one night a week that has a late swim?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I have another question. Is
Like
this
a-
a normal pool closure time? Is that something
Yes.
that was scheduled?
Yeah, this is historical. Like with, usually we kind of match with the high school once they're done with their swim season and once they've gone to their district meets,
Uh-huh.
then that's kind of whenever we start closing up.
How's the pool quality looking
Good.
for summer?
So a couple of things, people are going to say, well, what are they going to do? So we have a lot of unlevel concrete along our pool deck. So we're going to really try to grind that concrete down to make sure that it's level. And then also removing that 3-meter diving board is another thing, because we were out of compliance. We need to remove that frame. There's no more board on there. We took the board off already, but remove that frame and move that 1 meter over. So then that way it's accessible again in the summertime for patrons.
One of the other things, especially in the consideration of extending things later in the evening, the lighting at the pool as it's set up right now are lights that are strapped to the old lifeguard stands. So
I guess my thought on that
Yeah.
was more like 1 night a week we don't have fitness swim.
Well, we used to have
And
family
it's late
night.
because
Yeah.
There used to be family
I
night.
get it. You get off of work, you can't get
Yeah.
to the pool by 6.
Yeah. And to
but to offer it, like
Yeah. Oh yeah.
to offer it, you do have to have something to where kids aren't going to be, running over wires or.
Yeah.
well, and to Nicole's point,
I was
those
just
those are temporary. All of the old controls for our perimeter lights were inside the old pool building.
Uh-huh.
So to run new wire and to have just a switch just for that the cost was ridiculous. So those fixtures, like Nicole said, that are strapped to the lifeguard stands, those are temporary to allow us to continue. I mean, it was either that or we don't have any type of winter season. So
There's a fix. that
yes,
will
once
get-
once the community center is built,
It'll
all of those are going to
Gotcha.
be wired into
Yeah,
there,
okay.
so they'll be able to turn it on.
So yeah, it seems like there's an anticipated cost that's definitely going to happen for that.
I had emailed about if you want, I don't know if you have the bandwidth for this, a survey. We kind of done a couple emails back and forth on that. Would that be useful, you think, or later in the season to implement, pass out one?
Yeah, I mean, I think
survey for what?
a survey is always good.
To see what feedback they want or what improvements or what programming they might be interested in.
Because we talked about at one point, like waiting till we had more things done, finished before surveying the
Yeah.
building. And I think we need to feel like we need to get the pool building finished, because then all they're going to complain about is the pool building not being finished.
Well,
Like-
I didn't know if that would
don't
help.
include it on there.
Yeah.
Or
Just about programming, maybe.
programming, I guess maybe
And then I
programming.
wish too we could have like a normal, let's have a normal summer,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and then reflect off of that.
That's what, yeah. So
Like-
if we write it now and then have it ready to go in September.
And also,
Uh-huh.
I think that there's a space in there where there can be an educational opportunity in putting the survey out there. For example, in the course of the survey, are you aware that this is the building that we're going to have and how well this grant has been going? Just small things. Are you aware that we have this programming? So instead of asking people and giving them kind of a blank slate to look for things that they find to be problematic, to set them up to first acknowledge the programming and the things that we already have or the improvements that have been made, such that by the time they get down to the spot where they're like, well, this is what I would like, they have some sort of understanding of how they fit into that limited space
Mhm.
facility. Because otherwise, I think all surveys run the risk of, if you decontextualize it, then someone's just going to tell you how they feel,
Mhm.
and that's not always helpful. So I think there's an opportunity to give people context in the course of doing the survey in a way that is informative for the decisions that they're making.
I'll put that on the list. Anything else?
That's it for me.
We have a meeting on March 18th. This is exactly a month, it seems like. And thankfully, 6:30 worked out.
And thank you again very, very much for letting me hustle in and adjusting that for me. I appreciate it.
Have we always met on Wednesdays? Has that always been a?
I mean, we've had a bunch of changes last year.
But
I
we
had, I had
very
just,
common schedules.
I had thought of someone, and it's Wednesdays are a heavy church night, so. um, I won't be able to be here on the 18th.
Just out of, I had asked Stephen about it, but on the community center policy, I know we had discussed it before. Is there any group that we would not allow to rent the facility? I mean, and I think we brought up like the Ku Klux Klan or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
No, I mean, that's a real thing.
You reserve the right to
I think,
approve or
yeah.
not approve, right?
I would assume
Maybe.
so. I can ask the attorney and see.
It's gonna be a
What-
source of public disruption and possibly a safety issue.
Yeah.
I think that's a legitimate issue that the city has for.
I didn't find it in there. I mean,
Mhm.
and I just thought, maybe did anybody, we did think about it, about what could and couldn't be. I mean, you have everything covered. If they do this, they do that, or whatever, but I was just curious.
I did not think of that. I think at the beginning, there's a preamble about, we want this for everybody to be.
Oh, yeah, and I
So-
mean, you'd have to be really careful about who you, otherwise you're discriminating.
Yeah, for sure.
And, but if you wouldn't mind, Jonah, I would,
I can send an update once I figure it out.
okay. That's all.
All right. Would you like to adjourn? Is there a motion?
I make a motion that we adjourn.
All in, or is there a second? Sorry.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
8-10.
It's good to see you, Helen.
Anybody could ever ask the
And if anyone comes across someone in their life who has said to you,